If you think locking your door means you're safe, this story will prove you wrong. Because that night, I was inside my house, and so was someone else. This happened a couple of years ago, but even now, it still haunts me. Some nights, when everything is quiet, I swear I can still hear that soft click sound, the sound of a lock slowly turning. We lived in a 3-story house. The bottom floor had the living room and kitchen, the second floor had guest rooms, and the top floor was mine. The house was old, and some of the concrete steps leading to our front porch were loose. When someone stepped on them, they made a very specific crack sound. You couldn't mistake it for anything else. It started with small, strange things. Keys wouldn't be where we left them. The TV remote would appear under the couch when no one remembered dropping it. A spoon once showed up on the counter even though nobody had cooked. My mom laughed and said we were all forgetful. I believed her, at first. One night around 3 a.m., my uncle went outside to take out the trash. When he came back in, he looked pale. He said the moment he stepped outside, he felt like he was being watched. He looked toward my mom's van in the driveway and swore he saw someone sitting inside it. The windows were tinted, so he couldn't see clearly, but the feeling was strong. He stood frozen for a few seconds before rushing back inside. We all tried to brush it off. Probably just your imagination, we told him. But a few days later, my mom found something inside her car. A beer bottle. Nobody in our family drinks. She was sure it didn't belong to us. She suddenly realized she had been leaving her car unlocked every night. After that, she locked it religiously. That's when I started noticing things too. From my third-floor window, I could hear soft footsteps late at night. Slow footsteps. Careful footsteps. Whoever it was stepped on the loose stairs but tried to avoid making noise. The way they moved felt wrong, like they didn't want to be heard. At first, I assumed it was my younger uncle. He partied a lot and came home at weird hours. But these footsteps were different. Slower. Controlled. Deliberate. One night, after watching a horror movie, I didn't want to sleep alone. I made a small bed on the floor in my grandma's room. She had a security monitor that showed our driveway. As I lay there, half asleep, I glanced at the screen and froze. A tall man stood at the very edge of the camera's view, just standing there, not moving. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, thinking I was imagining it. He was still there. My heart started pounding. I grabbed my phone and messaged our family group chat. Did anyone just get home? Replies came quickly. No, I'm already inside. I'm still out. I looked back at the screen. He was gone. That image burned into my brain, but nothing happened after that, for weeks. Then came the day I'll never forget. It was a weekday. I stayed home from school and was completely alone. Everyone else was at work or class. Around 2 p.m., I was scrolling on TikTok in bed when I heard a man's voice outside and the faint hum of an engine. I peeked out my window. A golf cart was parked in our driveway. A man in a blue shirt stood next to it. He didn't look threatening, but something felt off. None of our cars were home. Nobody was supposed to visit. I called my mom at work. No answer. Then I called my stepdad. Is someone supposed to come over? I asked. No, he said immediately. When I explained what I saw, his voice turned serious. Keep watching. Update me. A few minutes later, my mom called back. The second I told her, she said, call the police. Now. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. The dispatcher told me to hide. But suddenly, a terrifying thought hit me. What if the doors weren't locked? I ran downstairs. Front door, locked. Back door, wide open. My heart dropped. I slammed it shut and locked it as fast as I could. And immediately, the doorknob started shaking violently. Someone was trying to get in. I turned around. He stood there, shirtless, tall, skinny, not the man in the blue shirt. His eyes were wild. His face looked wrong, like something wasn't right in his head. He yanked the handle harder, as if he had just missed getting inside. I swear he knew I had locked it. I ran, up the stairs, locked myself in my parents' room, stayed on the phone with 911 the entire time. I was shaking so badly I could barely talk. Minutes felt like hours. Police arrived and searched the house. Nobody, no blue shirt man, no shirtless man, no signs of forced entry. They checked the security footage. It barely showed anything, just strange movement at the edges, like they knew exactly where the cameras couldn't see. To this day, I don't know who they were. Were they working together? Was one watching while the other tried to break in? Sometimes I wonder, what if I hadn't locked the back door in time? A few weeks ago, I visited my old neighborhood. I saw a golf cart driving down the street. Same shape, same sound. I didn't stay long enough to see who was driving. Story 2. The knocking wasn't at the door. I was 17 when this happened. My mom was at work, and I had the house completely to myself. It was one of those calm afternoons between school and my evening shift. I was in my room doing my makeup, fixing my hair, eating some snacks, and watching TV. Everything felt normal, until I heard a loud knock. At first, I thought it was a front door. I checked the time, around 1 p.m. My mom sometimes came home for lunch, and earlier that morning she had told me not to block the garage with my car. I figured she was mad and knocking hard to get my attention. I heard it again. Bang, bang, bang. I rushed out of my room, annoyed, thinking, she's definitely angry now. I looked through the peephole. No one. Confused, I grabbed my phone, called her, and asked if she needed me to move my car. As I walked back to my room, I heard another loud knock. That's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. The knocking wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from the kitchen window. Our front door opens directly into the living room, and from there you can see straight into the kitchen. The window is huge, but we always kept the blinds and curtains closed. I stood there frozen, staring at the covered window. Bang! My heart started racing. A few months before this, we had seen some teenage boys messing around in our backyard. They were around 12 or 13 years old, just dumb kids being annoying. I convinced myself it was them again. So stupidly, I decided to open the blinds and scare them off. The second I pulled the blinds up, my heart dropped. All I saw was a corner of a black t-shirt and a grown man's arm. This was not a kid. This was a full-grown man standing inches from my window. I didn't even look at his face. I screamed, grabbed my dogs, and ran to my room, locked the door, pushed my dresser against it. I sat on my bed shaking. I don't know why I didn't call the police. I just called my mom while my hands were trembling. I told her everything, my voice cracking. She lost it. She started crying and telling me how scared she was, what could have happened to me. I went to work still in shock. The next morning, my mom checked our neighborhood app. The first post. Update. String of robberies in the area. My blood went cold. The post explained everything. A group of men dressed in all black were breaking into houses. They would go into backyards and pound on windows to see if someone was home. If nobody answered, they broke in, picked locks, stole everything. The post said they had finally been caught that very morning. But here's the worst part. After knocking on my window and seeing me, they left my house, and 30 minutes later, they broke into another house nearby. That house had a silent alarm. Police were called. That's how they got caught. If I hadn't opened my blinds, they would have thought nobody was home. They would have broken in. I still get chills thinking about it. My mom installed cameras everywhere after that. Front yard, backyard, side of the house, motion sensors. To this day, whenever I hear a knock, my heart stops, because sometimes it's not the door. Story 3. He knew my family. This happened 2 years ago. It was a weekend, and I was home alone. Nothing unusual. I was used to being alone, and honestly didn't feel scared at all. I locked all the doors, checked the windows, and planned to spend the night watching movies. Around midday, I decided to go for my usual walk. I put my headphones in and started walking down the street, lost in my music. Everything felt normal until I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. Someone was walking beside me. Not close, but on the opposite side of the pavement. At first, I ignored it, but then I realized something disturbing. His footsteps matched mine. When I slowed down, he slowed down. When I sped up, he sped up. My stomach twisted. I finally gathered the courage to look at him. He looked normal, mid-40s, clean clothes, nothing scary, except his face. It was blank, emotionless, like he wasn't human. His stare sent chills down my spine. I turned my music off but kept my headphones in. I didn't want him to know I was alert. My heart was pounding. Suddenly, he turned toward me and started walking closer. I wanted to run, but my body froze. He stopped right next to me and said calmly, "How is your mother doing?" My blood went cold. I pulled out one headphone. "Sorry," I asked. He repeated it. "How is your mom?" I forced a nervous smile. "She's fine. How do you know her?" He ignored my question. Instead, he said something that terrified me. "I hope she and your grandparents fix their family problems." My legs went weak. No stranger should know that. We never talk about our family issues, especially not to random people. I stopped responding, avoided eye contact, walked faster and changed my route home. I glanced back once. He was standing in the same place, smiling. Not a normal smile, a wide, creepy smile. Every part of me screamed to run, but I forced myself to stay calm. I didn't want him to chase me. I got home safely and messaged my mom, describing the man. She didn't reply. By the evening, I had almost convinced myself I was overreacting. I watched movies, ate snacks, tried to forget, until I woke up to knocking. It was 4 a.m. My heart started racing. Knock, knock. I slowly got up and walked to the door. My hands were shaking as I looked through the peephole. My soul left my body. It was him. His face was inches from the peephole. He knew I was watching. He smiled. This time I saw his face clearly. Piercing blue eyes, greasy black hair, hooked nose, perfect white teeth. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It was pure evil. Then he waved and started giggling softly. That sound broke me. I grabbed the biggest knife from my kitchen. It was all I had. I backed away slowly. Then I heard it. The door handle moved. He was trying to open it. He pushed harder. Again. I called the police in a whisper. "I'm home alone. Someone's trying to break in." I stayed frozen, holding the knife. Minutes passed. I could hear him breathing outside, trying the door every few minutes, waiting, hunting. When I finally heard sirens, silence. He was gone. Police arrived. I gave his description. In the morning, my mom replied. She didn't know him, never seen him, no clue. 2 years have passed. Nothing else happened. But I still wonder, how did he know my family? And why did he come back? At 4 a.m.? Story 4. He was hiding inside my room. This happened when I was 14 years old, and to this day, it remains the scariest night of my life. My parents had gone out for dinner and wouldn't be back until late. I was excited because it meant I had the whole house to myself. I felt grown up, independent, not scared at all. Around 5:30 p.m., I called 2 of my friends, James and Ryan. "Come over," I told them. They both agreed. James said he'd arrive around 6, and Ryan said he'd be there around 7. I waited, watching TV and scrolling on my phone. At exactly 6:05 p.m., James showed up. We joked around and played video games while waiting for Ryan. Around 6:45, we decided to walk to the park down the street to meet him halfway. I locked the front door, checked it twice, and put the keys in my pocket. We left. We waited at the park for almost an hour. Ryan texted, "Sorry, bro, can't make it." Annoyed, we walked back home. When we reached my house, I reached into my pocket to grab my keys. Nothing. My heart skipped. I checked every pocket. Gone. I started panicking. James tried the door. It opened. Unlocked. I froze. I knew I had locked it. Inside, my keys were sitting on the table like always. We both looked at each other, but laughed it off. "Maybe you forgot," James said. I didn't believe that, but I wanted to. We went back to gaming. Hours passed. At 10 p.m., James said he had to go home. I walked him to the door and locked it behind him. Double-checked. 5 minutes later, I realized my phone was missing. I found it on the floor. The screen was shattered. completely destroyed. I assumed James accidentally knocked it down and didn't want to admit it. Annoyed, I went upstairs to my room and laid in bed. 10 minutes later, something clicked in my head. If my phone is broken, what if I need to call my parents? I went downstairs to find the landline. That's when I saw it. The phone, smashed, in pieces, behind the couch. My stomach dropped. That's when fear hit me. Hard. I ran outside barefoot and banged on my neighbor's door, crying, shaking. They let me in. I used their phone and called the police. When police arrived, they searched my house. One officer opened my bedroom wardrobe and screamed. A small man was hiding inside, holding a 10-inch knife. He was arrested immediately. My parents rushed home. They held me while I cried uncontrollably. Later, police explained everything. When we went to the park, I accidentally dropped my keys. Right outside my door, he found them, unlocked the door, went inside, and hid. He waited, listened, watched. He smashed my phone so I couldn't call for help. He smashed the landline too. If I hadn't checked, I don't know what would have happened. I learned something that night. Being home alone doesn't mean you're safe. Sometimes, the danger is already inside. Story 5. Someone used my mom's keys. This happened when I was 12 years old, but I remember every single detail like it happened yesterday. My mom worked as a head night shift nurse at a private medical clinic. The place was huge, surrounded by woods, and miles away from the nearest town. Patients paid thousands of dollars to stay there for weeks to treat their illnesses. The area was beautiful during the day, but terrifying at night. Our house was a small one-story place at the top of a hill. There was only one other house nearby. Every night, my mom drove to work around 10:30 p.m. Because the road was made of gravel and rocks, you could always hear a car coming or going. The sound was loud and impossible to miss. Earlier that week, my mom had lost her main set of keys. She was stressed about it, but used her spare keys instead. We didn't think much of it at the time. That night, I was in my bedroom playing PlayStation. It wasn't even that late, maybe 11 p.m. It was summer, so I didn't have school the next day. My mom had already left for work. The house was quiet. Suddenly, something strange happened. I felt a heavy pressure in my chest, like an invisible hand pushing me. A deep instinct told me, turn everything off. Pretend you're asleep. I don't know why, but I listened. I turned off my PlayStation, turned off my light, faced the wall, closed my eyes. My heart started racing for no reason. 5 minutes later, I heard the front door open, but I didn't hear a car. That's when terror washed over me. Our wooden floors creaked loudly. I heard heavy footsteps moving slowly through the living room. Step, step, step. Whoever it was, they were searching. They walked into the kitchen. My room was connected to the kitchen. The light turned on. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself not to move. My breathing felt too loud. The footsteps came closer. Then, they stopped, right at my doorway. I felt their presence. I knew someone was standing there, staring at me. Seconds felt like hours. I thought, if I move, I'm dead. My entire body was shaking, but I stayed still. Finally, the footsteps moved away. The kitchen light turned off. The front door opened and closed. Silence. I stayed frozen for almost 30 minutes. Then I grabbed my phone and called my mom. She said she never came home. We were terrified. The next day, we changed all the locks, added extra security bars. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was touched. We believe someone found her lost keys. They didn't steal. They didn't hurt me. They just watched. Sometimes I think, what if I didn't pretend to sleep? What if I turned around? What if I screamed? I believe something protected me that night. A guardian angel. Because that instinct saved my life. Even today, I never ignore my gut feeling.